can't see that, but just see where it takes you. See? See where it takes you. Okay, Sunday is over, and it was kind of a balmy, nice day when it wasn't raining. And let's see, what are comments from today? I was thinking about that training that I went to. The only thing that I've seemed to retain from that training session I had was stopping back further from the crosswalk. For some reason I've retained that. I seem to be consciously like remembering that. That's the only thing I seem to remember about the training that I've actually implemented. And that's interesting. Because when I think about the things he said, I really don't remember much other than that and that. He also complained that I wasn't scanning the minor intersections. I don't know how the trainer could know what I was scanning. You're not in my head. You can't see what I'm. You know, this whole idea of seeing your head go like that is kind of ludicrous as far as I'm concerned. You know, everybody does the job differently. There's no template bus driver in terms of the way that they look around or the way that they sense things around them. If you go back 20 years, 30 years, there were no right mirrors even on transit buses back then. Drivers had no right mirrors, and you know, a little tiny left mirror. Somehow they survived back then. Things really weren't that bad. So I don't know how did the world ever survive at all is the question. Without all the rules and regulations we have, how did the world make it to this point? Obviously, most of the stuff that we have now is useless and just bureaucrats. You know, we're a nation of bureaucrats, and that will be our undoing as a nation too. A nation that doesn't produce anything but bureaucrats ends up down the tube. So that was the comment. Oh, the other comment about the training was, it's just very curious that there are no passengers being picked up on the training. All we were doing is so-called defensive driving, but by eliminating the passengers in the training program, you've eliminated the job. Okay, that's not of any authentic value, a training program that does not incorporate passengers. And when I worked at Santa Rosa Transit, you know, we always went on a route and picked up passengers just like you do, so that the trainer could see how you were handling all of the aspects of the program. And so I found that bizarre that they don't want to pick up passengers during their training. I mean, it negates. You're not doing bus driving. You're just driving a car. So the two tasks are completely dissimilar. Those were the two comments I wanted to make. So I remember to stand back from the crosswalk, and the rest of it I'm just doing like I always did. You know, which is always what happens in the training program. You listen to their spiel and you go through their motions, and then you do what you know. There's rules and regulations, and then there's the reality. You know, even I have that as a landlord. I have rules and regulations, and then I have the reality of how the tenants are going to behave. And I'm not going to enforce all those rules and regulations I have for my tenants, because I know better than that. People don't live precisely by what they're supposed to. You have to understand that people are going to live the way that they live. So you have to decide where you're going to be nitpicking and where you're going to just live and let live. And the other thing was, you know, the fares. The fares continue to bother me a little bit. Some of the zealousness in which some of our, oh man, the wind's kicking up, brothers and sisters collect these fares bothers me. You know, we're sitting here pretty fat and happy, us TriMet employees so far. You know, so far we haven't gotten killed yet. I guess they've eliminated a few of the middle management people. Not many, I guess, but some. And they're not hiring any more bus drivers, which makes... Well, they can't fill the runs is what ends up happening. And they just pay overtime to the people that they've already got here. So we're sitting fat and happy, and you know, those of us that drive these routes here, these people that are riding these buses, we hear them. I hear them, and they're boasting when they're making $13 an hour without any benefit. They're happy about that, and here we are, up to $24 an hour, and as much as $36 an hour. People making $1,500 to $2,000 a check, and so when you're nickel and diming these people for their change or they didn't pay their fare, I find that is very you're really putting yourself as a judge. You're judging people's behavior. You're judging whether they're paying or not. Most people have a fare. Maybe it's expired or something. Most people are pretty honest, I've noticed. Most people are honest. And the ones that aren't, you think you're going to change them, you're not going to change anything by nickel and diming or by calling them on their transfer that was yesterday's or whatever. It's of no value to you or the company because it creates more negativity. If they're cheating, so what? Who's not cheating? The banks are cheating, okay? The politicians are cheating. It's systemic, and the KATU lies to the public, okay, and then points a finger at our bus driver because she lied when they're doing the exact same thing. So it's systemic in the culture. It's not something that you're going to change by making these poor slobs. Well, I don't mean to use that word, but I use the word in a sympathetic voice. These poor people that are already suffering enough don't need a bunch of bus drivers on their case. Okay, and they don't. And this is part of the problem with our perception. I mean, the perception of bus drivers is being out of control because a lot of them are, and they got to stop this behavior. You know, most people pay. They're quite happy to pay. And the amount of money that you're collecting by creating this stuff is so tiny. I mean, Fred is making $260,000 a year out of this place, and you're going to worry about $1.50 or $1 out of these people that can't even survive out in the world. Look at that list of executives here. That's what you're collecting that money for. Those guys, okay, they're getting fat on these people. So when you nickel and dime them, you remember that. I'm not going to do it. I will do what I can to collect the fares, but I am not going to take any extraordinary actions to make these people feel like they're less than people or that they're cheating me or cheating the government when the government's cheating us, okay? And it's not our place to teach people morality. If they don't have it, that's their problem. It's not our problem. We're just a bunch of bus drivers. That's all we are. We're not here to teach people any kind of ethics lessons. Drive the buses and be happy you have